in the room was thick with anticipation, a sweet, heady blend of vanilla and the worn richness of old leather. Majestueux knelt in the centre of the rug, the plush fibres a soft contrast to her bare skin. She wore nothing but a black collar intricately adorned with gold accents, a stark declaration of her purpose. The cool metal of the leash, held loosely in an unseen hand, brushed against her, sending delicate ripples of goosebumps along her thighs and spine. Fear was an alien concept here. Instead, her body hummed with a vibrant, almost painful expectation. Expectation was a cruel yet exhilarating lover. Each silent second, each absence of touch, was an invitation to surrender deeper, to let go of the last vestiges of her conscious self. She didn't need words, just her presence, the mistress, who possessed an uncanny ability to guide her with a mere glance, a feather-light touch, the barest whisper of a command. The rhythmic click of heels against the polished hardwood floor echoed like a bespoke symphony, drawing Majestueux's attention. She kept her chin lifted, eyes respectfully lowered, awaiting the arrival. The other woman approached slowly, a figure of commanding grace draped in black vinyl that clung to every curve, like a second skin. Gloved fingers, dark and impossibly elegant, traced a path across Majestueux's shoulder with the lightness of a breath, sending shivers down her arm. "Good girl, are you ready to serve me?" The voice was a low, firm caress, and Majestueux felt her answer pulse between her legs before it ever had a chance to form on her lips. "Yes, mistress." The first slap came, quick, sharp, a percussive snap against her thigh that vibrated through her. It was a visceral reminder of her place, of the control she had willingly relinquished, and how exquisitely that thrilled her. Another slap, this time against her breast, made her gasp. A soft, involuntary sound. The sharp sting of pain mingled deliciously with the cold chain at her neck, a contrast that heightened every sensation. "Tonight, you'll be my toy. My pleasure is your purpose." "Understood." "Yes, mistress. Please, use me." The plea was barely a whisper, thick with yearning. A slow, knowing smile curled on Mistress's lips, a silent acknowledgement of Majestueux's profound desire. She tugged the leash with just enough force to make Majestueux crawl forward, an instinctual, eager movement. Her mouth, now parted in reverence, found its place between Mistress's thighs. The taste was an intoxicating blend of salty skin, sweet musk, and the inevitable culmination of her anticipation. Majestueux moaned between licks, her own pleasure born from the profound act of obedience, from the sheen of sweat on her skin, and from the rising symphony of Mistress's moans. Soon she was laid on her back across the plush bed, legs spread wide, wrists bound with soft satin ties to the corners. A beautiful tableau of willing vulnerability. The exposure made her burn hotter, the heat radiating from within. The insistent pressure of a vibrator against her clitoris made her cry out, a raw, unrestrained sound. But there was no mercy. Mistress, with exquisite cruelty, would stop whenever Majestueux approached the precipice of climax, resuming only when her body trembled on the very edge of oblivion. "Don't come until I say," Mistress whispered, her voice a low purr before biting her earlobe just enough to make Majestueux squirm. A delicious agony when the orgasm finally came, permitted, earned, overwhelming. It cracked through her like thunder, shaking her to her very core. arched against the ties, trembling uncontrollably, her eyes wet with tears of pure, unadulterated pleasure. Her heart hammered against her ribs as if she'd run for miles, an exhilarating, breathless rhythm. Afterwards, wrapped securely in Mistress's arms, the world quieted again, settling into a profound calm. The raw edges of sensation softened into a warm, lingering embrace. Being submissive, Majestueux knew, was not weakness. It was power. The power of choice. The power of profound trust. The power of absolute surrender. It was love, given and received in the unique, beautiful shape of dominance and absolute trust. The afterglow lingered, a warm, heavy blanket over Majestueus's spent body. Each breath was deep and even, a testament to the profound release she had experienced. The scent of vanilla and leather, now deliciously mingled with the musk of their shared pleasure, felt like home, enveloping her in a cocoon of comfort. She shifted slightly, her head resting on Mistress's shoulder, listening to the steady, reassuring beat of her heart. The satin ties that had bound her wrists were now loose, a gentle, almost forgotten caress against her skin. Mistress's fingers, no longer encased in gloves, stroked Majestueux's hair, tracing the curve of her skull. There was a tenderness in the touch that spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement of the depths they had plumbed together, the raw honesty of their shared experience. "Are you content, my good girl?" Mistress's voice was a soft rumble in her ear, a stark contrast to the firm commands of earlier, yet equally resonant. Majestueux hummed in response, a sound of pure, unadulterated satisfaction that vibrated through her chest. She felt a lightness in her limbs, a profound sense of peace that only this complete surrender could bring. "More than content, Mistress, always," Mistress chuckled, a low, throaty sound that vibrated through Majestueux's chest, a deep, comforting vibration. "Good, because our night isn't quite over." Majestueux's eyes fluttered open, a new spark of anticipation igniting within her, chasing away the last vestiges of post-climax haze. She lifted her head, looking up at Mistress. The dim light played across Mistress's face, softening the sharp angles of her features, highlighting the faint, knowing smile that touched her lips. The next hours unfolded in a tapestry of intimate moments, each stitch woven with care and affection. Mistress brought her a glass of cool water, holding it to her lips as Majestueux drank, a simple act of nurture that felt immensely profound. There was a quiet meal of ripe, juicy fruit and rich, dark chocolate, each bite shared, each taste savoured in the companionable silence. Mistress's touch was now gentle, restorative, a soothing balm to every nerve ending that had been set ablaze. They spoke in hushed tones about nothing and everything, the words drifting between them like smoke, light and ethereal. Majestueux felt seen, truly seen, in a way she rarely was in the outside world. This was where she could shed her inhibitions, where her deepest desires were not only accepted, but celebrated, understood. Later, wrapped in a plush robe that felt like a second skin, Majestueux sat on the edge of the bed as Mistress brushed her hair, long, slow strokes that pulled any remaining tension from her scalp, a meditative rhythm. It was a ritual of care, a quiet act of devotion that cemented the unique bond between them, the dominant and the submissive, yes, but also two women connected by trust, desire, She was accustomed to navigating complexities, making critical decisions, and holding a certain level of control in her professional and personal spheres. The world outside Mistress's domain often demanded a constant vigilance, a careful curation of her persona, a performance of strength and capability, but within these walls, that burden was lifted. Here, she could truly be, without the need for pretense or self-preservation, without the weight of expectations, the moments of vulnerability, the sharp sting of a slap, the delicious ache of denial. These weren't punishments in her mind, but rather intense forms of communication, a language understood between them. Each sensation, each command, was a deliberate stripping away of the layers she wore in the outside world, revealing the raw, unvarnished core of her being. It was in this exposed, honest state that she felt most alive, most authentic, most herself. The physical sensations were merely a pathway to a deeper psychological surrender, a letting go that brought an unparalleled sense of freedom and clarity. There was a profound trust she placed in Mistress, a trust that transcended mere words. It was an unspoken understanding that Mistress would guide her, push her to her limits, and ultimately bring her to a place of exquisite pleasure and profound peace. This absolute trust allowed Majestueux to shed the anxieties of control and decision-making, knowing that her well-being, both physical and emotional, was in capable and caring hands. The boundaries were clear, painstakingly established and respected, and the consent enthusiastic, given freely. Within that secure and defined framework, she found the liberation to explore the deepest recesses of her desires without fear or hesitation. She often thought of it as a form of meditation, or even a form of worship, a spiritual practice. The intense focus required to remain present, to feel every sensation, to anticipate every command, pulled her completely into the moment, silencing the incessant clamour of her everyday thoughts, the endless to-do lists and worries. The subspace she sometimes entered, a hazy, euphoric state of detachment and bliss, was the ultimate escape, a temporary suspension of her analytical mind, replaced by pure sensation and an almost cosmic connection to Mistress. For Majestueux, being submissive was not about weakness, but about a potent form of power. It was the power to choose surrender, to entrust herself fully to another, and in that act, to discover a strength and peace that she found nowhere else. It was a conscious choice, a deliberate act of self-discovery, pushing past societal norms and expectations, and above all, it was a unique and profound expression of love and devotion for her Mistress, a bond forged in trust, vulnerability, and shared ecstasy, deepest recesses of her desires without fear or hesitation.